Chapter 4 of the Professor. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Professor by Charlotte Bronte. Chapter 4. No man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake in the choice of his profession, and every man, worthy of the name, will row long against wind and tide before he allows himself to cry out, "I'm baffled," and submits to be floated passively back to land. From the first week of my residence in X, I felt my occupation irksome. The thing itself, the work of copying and translating business letters, was a dry and tedious task enough, but had that been all, I should long have borne with the nuisance. I am not of an impatient nature, and influenced by the double desire of getting my living and justifying to myself and others the resolution I had taken to become a tradesman, I should have endured in silence the rust and cramp of my best faculties. I should not have whispered, even inwardly, that I longed for liberty. I should have pent in every sigh by which my heart might have ventured to intimate its distress under the closeness, smoke, monotony, and joyless tumult of Big Ben Close, and its panting desire for freer and fresher scenes. I should have set up the image of duty, the fetish of perseverance, in my small bedroom at Mrs. King's lodgings, and they too should have been my household gods, from which my darling, my cherished in secret, imagination, the tender and the mighty, should never, either by softness or strength, have severed me. But this was not all. The antipathy which had sprung up between myself and my employer, striking deeper root and spreading denser shades daily, excluded me from every glimpse of the sunshine of life, and I began to feel like a plant growing in humid darkness out of the slimy walls of a well. Antipathy is the only word which can express the feeling Edward Crimsworth had for me, a feeling, in a great measure, involuntary, and which was liable to be excited by every, the most trifling movement, look, or word of mine. My southern accent annoyed him, the degree of education evinced in my language irritated him, my punctuality, industry, and accuracy fixed his dislike, and gave it the high flavour and poignant relish of envy. He feared that I too should one day make a successful business man. Had I been in anything inferior to him, he would not have hated me so thoroughly, but I knew all that he knew, and what was worse, he suspected that I kept the padlock of silence on mental wealth in which he was no sharer. If he could have once placed me in a ridiculous or mortifying position, he would have forgiven me much, but I was guarded by three faculties: caution, tact, observation, and prowling and prying as was Edward's malignity, it could never baffle the lynx eyes of these, my natural sentinels. Day by day did his malice watch my tact, hoping it would sleep, and prepared to steal snake-like on its slumber. But tact, if it be genuine, never sleeps. I had received my first quarter's wages, and was returning to my lodgings, possessed heart and soul with the pleasant feeling that the master who had paid me grudged every penny of that hard-earned pittance. I had long ceased to regard Mr. Crimsworth as my brother. He was a hard, grinding master. He wished to be an inexorable tyrant, that was all. Thoughts, not varied, but strong, occupied my mind. Two voices spoke within me. Again and again they uttered the same monotonous phrases. One said, "William, your life is intolerable." The other, "What can you do to alter it?" I walked fast, for it was a cold, frosty night in January. As I approached my lodgings, I turned from a general view of my affairs to the particular speculation as to whether my fire would be out. Looking towards the window of my sitting room, I saw no cheering red gleam. "That slut of a servant has neglected it as usual," said I, "and I shall see nothing but pale ashes if I go in. It is a fine starlight night. I will walk a little farther." It was a fine night, and the streets were dry and even clean for X. There was a crescent curve of moonlight to be seen by the parish church tower, and hundreds of stars shone keenly bright in all quarters of the sky. Unconsciously I steered my course towards the country. I had got into Grove Street, and began to feel the pleasure of seeing dim trees at the extremity, round a suburban house, when a person leaning over the iron gate of one of the small gardens which front the neat dwelling houses in this street addressed me as I was hurrying with quick stride past. What the deuce is a hurry? Just so must Lot have left Sodom when he expected fire to pour down upon it out of burning brass clouds. I stopped short, and looked towards the speaker. I smelt the fragrance, and saw the red spark of a cigar. The dusk outline of a man, too, bent towards me over the wicket. "You see I am meditating in the field at eventide," continued this shade. "God knows it's cool work. Especially as instead of Rebecca on a camel's hump, with bracelets on her arms and a ring in her nose, fate sends me only a counting-house clerk in a grey tweed wrapper." The voice was familiar to me. Its second utterance enabled me to seize the speaker's identity. "Mr. Hunsden, good evening." "Good evening, indeed! Yes, but you would have passed me without recognition if I had not been so civil as to speak first." "I did not know you." "A famous excuse. You ought to have known me. I knew you, though you were going ahead like a steam engine. Are the police after you?" "It wouldn't be worth their while. I'm not of consequence enough to attract them." "Alas, poor shepherd, alack and well a day! What a theme for regret, and how down in the mouth you must be, judging from the sound of your voice. But since you're not running from the police, from whom are you running? The devil?" "On the contrary, I'm going post to him." "That is well. You are just in luck. This is Tuesday evening. There are scores of market gigs and carts returning to Dinnerford to night, and he, or some of his, have a seat in all regularly. So, if you'll step in and sit half an hour in my bachelor's parlour, you may catch him as he passes without much trouble. I think, though, you had better let him alone to night. He'll have so many customers to serve. Tuesday is his busy day in X and Dinnerford. Come in at all events." He swung the wicket open as he spoke. "Do you really wish me to go in?" I asked. "As you please. I'm alone. Your company for an hour or two would be agreeable to me; but if you don't choose to favour me so far, I'll not press the point. I hate to bore anyone." It suited me to accept the invitation as it suited Hunsden to give it. I passed through the gate and followed him to the front door, which he opened. Thence we traversed a passage, and entered his parlour. The door being shut, he pointed me to an armchair by the hearth. I sat down, and glanced round me. It was a comfortable room, at once snug and handsome. The bright grate was filled with a genuine Blankshire fire, red, clear, and generous. No penurious south of England embers heaved in the corner of a grate. On the table a shaded lamp diffused around a soft, pleasant, and equal light. The furniture was almost luxurious for a young bachelor, comprising a couch and two very easy chairs. Bookshelves filled the recesses on each side of the mantelpiece. They were well furnished, and arranged with perfect order. The neatness of the room suited my taste. I hate irregular and slovenly habits. From what I saw I concluded that Hunsden's ideas on that point corresponded with my own. While he removed from the centre table to the sideboard a few pamphlets and periodicals, I ran my eye along the shelves of the bookcase nearest me. French and German works predominated. The old French dramatists, sundry modern authors, Thiers, Villemain, Paul de Kock, George Sand, Eugene Sue. In German, Goethe, Schiller, Schocker, Jean Paul Richter. In English there were works on political economy. I examined no further, for Mr. Hunsden himself recalled my attention. "You shall have something," said he, "for you ought to feel disposed for refreshment after walking nobody knows how far on such a Canadian night as this. But it shall not be brandy and water, and it shall not be a bottle of port, nor ditto of sherry. I keep no such poison. I have Rhine wine for my own drinking, and you may choose between that and coffee." Here again Hunsden suited me. If there was one generally received practice I abhorred more than another, it was the habitual imbibing of spirits and strong wines. I had, however, no fancy for his acid German nectar; but I liked coffee, so I responded, "Give me some coffee, Mr. Hunsden." I perceived my answer